I've never been a second or a third, but
we need help deciding this. You guys should share this into the fantasy intervention circle chat and tell everybody that they need to come on to help us out with this, because
I never do any of this stuff. Like, I would never name my kid Jacob Sanderson, right? Like, what if I pull a Henry Ruggs, then my kid has my name? That's not great.
Oh, dude, come on.
Ooh,
Jacob. All right. No. So if you end up having, like, you know, if you have a son, right, and then they become like the junior.
Yeah.
I always kind of figured that the senior was like the grandpa, right? The dad was just nothing. He was just Odell Beckham or whatever, like whatever you want to say.
Okay,
wow. And then you have the junior. And then you have the junior, right? Like, who's the youngest one. And then when the dad dies, I thought that the grandfather dies, then dad becomes the senior.
So that's some Game of Thrones type
then what
shit
happens
right
to
there.
junior? So the dad dies,
so the junior
loses his junior. Now he's just nothing.
That's what I was going to say. So hold on. I got next level, right?
Okay, all right.
You got first, you have senior, then junior, then third. So now you have first, second, and third, right? What if second/junior dies? Does third then become junior to his grandfather?
Ooh, see, I think that's.
I don't think that's how it works, Chase.
You have to ask George Foreman.
Then your father becomes your grandfather? No, or your grandfather.
This is Game of
Thrones
all of a sudden.
All right. So I think you stay junior up until you have a kid.
No. Well, no, because what if you don't even name your kid junior? First of all,
no. Yeah. He has to have a kid, or else you're junior forever. But
you become the second when you will be the second.
The junior
forever.
is the second. You'd become the third.
The baby would become the third, or the son
the baby would become the third. You would become the second. But that
there's no more juniors. There's no more juniors.
Well, there can only be one junior. Yeah.
Because you can't just kill people off to give other people the junior moniker. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how it works.
Chase is Shane Jr. And Jacob is Chase Jr.
Oh, man. My mind is blown right now. All right. We got to get into some football, or else my brain's going to hurt even worse than it already does.
I promise you it won't hurt less to talk about football after the day that we just had.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
An absolute fucking shit show.
I've never had a tougher day getting off Twitter. Like, every time that I refresh Twitter, there was something crazier. Like, it was like, okay, OBJ is being excused from practice. Aaron Rodgers is a crazy person who has his own ways of medicine, and he's in some sort of cult. And then everything, of course, Ruggs, and then we had Barkley pop up on the coat. Everything. It was just crazy.
We'll get into it.
COVID, and then not COVID. This makes me long for the simple days of last year, when my only concern was a game getting moved to a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like, I miss those days. Those seemed so simple. I remember being all stressed out back then when we were trying to figure out what week does this game go to now? Does it go to the next week? Because if it's a Wednesday game, it's very close to Thursday, which is the next week, but it's still the old week because I miss those.
I love
days.
that. There were so many nice 2-game mini slates for DFS. I love a 2-game slate.
All right, I missed the talk that we just had about juniors and seniors already. Let's go ahead and kick off this show. Let's go.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Can someone give me a timeline of the Odell Beckham Jr. day?
Oh, absolutely.
So at first, well, it started last night, right? When Pops released the video, trashing Baker, right?
Wait,
and then Baker's wife came
Odell
back
Beckham
at him.
Sr.?
Odell Beckham the first put out a video trashing Baker Mayfield for consistently not throwing to or missing Odell Beckham Jr. the second. Okay, so and then
Do you have to say the second?
Yes. And then Mrs. Baker Mayfield, Bakey Mayfield, I'll call her. She came out and blasted Odell's dad on Instagram, right? Right?
Yes.
Or just threw some shade, right? And then today, Odell punched someone in practice, or did I make that up?
No. That part's wrong. If this was two truths and a lie, we just found the lie.
All right, so that part didn't happen. But apparently Odell didn't feel like coming to practice today.
No.
They tried
That's
to
also
trade
not
him
true.
yesterday.
That's also not true.
They did try to trade him yesterday.
Yes, they did do that.
Okay, so then he didn't come to practice today.
He was told not to come to practice.
It was because they felt he was a distraction, which
Because he was probably going to punch somebody.
Rightly so. He's probably
or he was just going to ask someone to shit on him.
Yeah, and then next thing came out was Baker. Then the Browns actually leaked that their head coach even noted that that Odell Beckham III is not part of this team anymore, basically. And now we're to the point where they've told him, you go away forever and we would like you never to come back.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
So as of like Monday, Stefanski was talking about how they need to get him more targets, need to get him more involved in the offense. I think I've heard that speech actually about 8 times since he's been in Cleveland about how they need to find ways to get him more involved. Anyway, and then obviously OBJ Sr. posts a thing. He comes in today. Apparently he wanted to practice. He was ready to practice. They said no. Since that time, he has severed contact with Kevin Stefanski, won't return his calls, won't talk to him, wants something to do with him. And so he's been negotiating with Andrew Berry, the GM. And I assume the negotiations is that basically if they cut him, the financial situation, so he has 2 years left after this on his contract, but all of that is non-guaranteed. So he's gone at the end of the year no matter what. I think we all pretty much knew that before the season, unless he came out and had like 1,200 yards. So he has $8 million left this year that's fully guaranteed. If they waive him, then the only way that they don't pay that is if someone claims him, which I'm pretty sure if someone's going to claim off waivers, he would have been traded on the trade deadline yesterday. So no one's going to claim him. No one's going to claim him. And then I assume he'll probably would get signed by somebody after he clears waivers. Basically, I think the negotiations are just they want to reach some sort of buyout because from the sounds of it, Beckham fully wants to play, and he probably wants to play for not the Browns. And so if they basically, I think if they're just going to say, hey, if we grant you your release, how much money can we get back? Whereas otherwise they'll just burn a spot on the 53 to essentially hold him as a prisoner.
Right. Well, a little different than being a prisoner because he'll be paid $8 million. Also, won't be in prison. So basically,
have you been around the Cleveland Browns organization?
I've been close to Cleveland, and Cleveland is a tough town. I will say that it's not a place that I would like to.
Cleveland, were you at the Cleveland Detention Center?
Yeah, I would not like to ever be there again on purpose. But yeah, so there's no impetus for them to cut him because they don't save any money. So unless he's willing to accept the buyout, which he should be willing to accept if he actually wants to play football again this year, he'll take. But who knows? We have no idea what's going on. Maybe his pop will put out a diss tape.
Hope so. I want LeBron to get more involved. I want to.
I saw LeBron got involved. I didn't want to know, so I just didn't even look.
Oh my God. Oh man, what a wild day we had.
Did LeBron threaten to fight Baker Mayfield or Baker Mayfield's wife? Or am I making that up?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Dave, that's why we got you covered, man. That's why we talked through all the contact implications for you.
So wait, so there's going to be a tag team match. It's going to be Odell Beckham the first, Odell Beckham the second, LeBron James the third versus Baker Mayfield, Kevin Stefanski, and Bakey Mayfield.
Yeah, and I assume Jarvis Landry is the ref. He seems to have an affinity for all sides.
But he's really like when D-Generation X split up and Shawn Michaels was the ref because he was close to Triple H and six-pack or whatever they were calling him at that time. He's really Triple H's dude. You know that. You know what I mean? That's Jarvis, too. Like, he's going to definitely, like, turn a blind eye when Odell Jr., Beckham Sr., the third, hits Baker Mayfield with a chair.
Oh, my God. All right. I'm cutting this right now. All right. We got to hop into this episode because we have a lot more to talk about other than tag team wrestling matches with chairs and Baker Mayfield. But, yeah. Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. We have another episode coming at y'all, of course, for week 9. Welcome on in Fantasy Football Discussion. Welcome to Twitter. If you guys have any questions over there on Twitter, I know that they are having difficulties with getting those comments over. So go to youtube.com/fantasy intervention to get those questions over to us. We will be answering them throughout the entire show today. But we start out first with a little bit of a recap of week 8, which was not too great for Shane and I. But once again, Jacob did kill it. He finished the week off with 4 points, having 2 players, one player at RB1 with Michael Carter, and then the second guy with Darren Arnold as the tight end, too.
I got Michael Carter, by the way.
Nope.
I went back and watched the video and verified it.
Okay, it's a Bruder film.
Oh, hey, Shane, you still did all right. All right. You ended up going with Devontae Booker, finished out as RB14. But I ended up finishing up with 2 points. Shane finished up with 1.
I barely even knew her.
Exactly what I was thinking. I don't know how you read my mind. But no, it was a little bit of a rough
Toronto
week.
Dave said he wants Shane more involved in the streams. I think after that joke, we're lucky if we see Shane next Wednesday.
All right, let's leave the funnies to me, and you guys come with the hard-hitting analysis and saying things like "boot."
Oh, God. No, and then we had Michael Pittman, who was picked to be a success. However, our quarterback position did not do too hot.
Who picked Michael Pittman, me?
Chase.
No, that was me.
I feel like I picked these players.
And then Jacob joked me because he said he was complete chalk and everybody else was going to pick him too. So we did pretty poorly with the quarterback position. Jameis Winston was on track to have a quarterback one finish, but he ended up getting hurt. Then we had Matt Ryan and Trevor Lawrence.
Why do I keep picking Matt Ryan? Well, okay. For the record, if I knew Calvin Ridley wasn't going to be playing, I wouldn't have picked Matt Ryan. But I don't understand why I keep having faith in this guy. And he keeps ending up on more of my dynasty rosters, seemingly by the week. I don't actually understand how. I keep logging into Sleeper every Saturday night, and I go to set lineups, and I keep seeing this M. Ryan in my QB1 chair, and it's really – I'm really getting tired of it. I don't quite understand how this happened, but I guess I've just been buying him because he's cheap. But he's so tilting to root for. He's terrible.
But I think this is also one of the years that you're supposed to perform because he's like every other year, right? I think this is supposed to be an
exactly.
Year,
it's an odd year.
I mean, it was never going to be a good year for him because Calvin Ridley is not a great alpha receiver, and Kyle Pitts is still rookie. So, that's just at least the storyline that everybody likes to tell us. He does. He has Tajay Sharp. Here's Russell Gage.
And honestly, I'm a little disappointed that Olamide Zaccheaus has not become a thing. I had high hopes for the Greek god.
No,
Shane, you look aggravated.
So
no, I don't care about that. I mean, it's Kyle Pitts and
that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
can we talk on Marcellus Wiley for that shitty take? By the way,
Marcellus Wiley from Pulp Fiction.
No, the guy he does the show with Acho.
What did he say
on ESPN? Oh, he said that Calvin Ridley he's not cut out for the NFL, and he should apply to a job at the post office.
Yeah, Marcellus Wiley is a stupid bitch.
Whoa.
I mean, look, mental health stuff. So, I kind of take it to heart because I obviously have had many mental health issues, which if you follow me on Twitter, I've been pretty open about. So I actually like the fact that people like Calvin Ridley are being out front with the whole I have mental health issues and normalize it, because the problem is for too long it hasn't been normalized. And what people tried to do was self-medicate or not deal with it at all, and then kill themselves or kill other people. And then everybody joke about how the crazy guy killed 6 people. So fuck Marcellus Wiley. He is a bitch-made fool.
You said it.
That's all I got to say about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Definitely needs to be said sometimes. So let's go ahead and hop into some of these news updates instead of doing like the flex positions to, try and target this week or, finding some of these post waiver wire sleepers. I actually do want to talk about some of these news updates. And I want to start out with Henry Ruggs. I want to keep the news aspect short. What happened was fucked up situation. Never should have happened in the first place. I don't want to dwell on that too much because there's not much we can say about it outside of it's really fucked up. But I want to talk about some of the potential replacements for Henry Ruggs. And, if we think that somebody in this offense is going to take over the targets that Derek Carr was kind of spreading around, because Derek Carr now is somewhat infamous for saying, hey, I'm just going to give it to who's ever open. I'm not trying to target one guy or another. Everybody's going to get it. And we've seen Darren Waller, right? He hasn't seen a ton of targets.
Everyone's going to get it. That sounds like my motto. But anyway.
X going to give it to you. X going to give it to you.
Although mine is literally anyone at all can get it. Whatever.
I think that's also COVID-19's motto.
Oh, God.
Everyone's going to get it, especially Aaron Rodgers.
Do you think that he could end up, keeping these targets spread out, like Zay Jones will now be a factor in his offense? No. Or do we think that Darren Waller is going to see an increase in targets, or is it still going to be spread out to where there's not enough relevance for any particular target to see it? Or is there somebody in this offense that's going to end up?
It's Waller, Renfro, Brian Edwards. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that Ruggs, I just don't think saw as many targets as people think that he did. Right. Like he made a lot of impact plays, and if you're watching NFL Red Zone, his targets to catches that appeared on NFL Red Zone ratio was among the highest in the league, but he only had 14.8% of the targets. So like that's actually not, he was the wide receiver one in this offense, but they really don't have a wide receiver one in this offense because it's spread out. And Waller's really the wide receiver one. So I think Renfro maybe sees a slight increase. I mean, Edwards might see a slight increase, but Edwards is already leading this team in routes. Like he was actually, like in terms of just deployment, he was the wide receiver one on this team. It's just amounted to about 11% of the targets. I don't know, maybe that gets up to 13. I don't think it's going to all of a sudden come up to like 20% or anything. I'm sure they'll stick Zay Jones out there. They might make a play for Deshaun Jackson. It wouldn't surprise me if they made a play for Odell Beckham if he's released. And certainly, if you bring in like OBJ, I think he'll command a lot more targets than Ruggs did, and then it just gets kind of worse for everybody. If it's Deshaun Jackson, I don't know, maybe he gets like
will he though? Because he's.
So I actually have
Odell Beckham more than a 15% target share.
I wouldn't give him more than a 15% target share, but that's
Odell Beckham is actually
being earned, Shane.
He hasn't earned shit from what I've seen the last 4 years. But
so Odell Beckham actually is up on my list. But I do want to talk about Zay Jones real quick because you brought up that Henry Ruggs. Actually, Henry Ruggs did see a 14% target share, and that's what Zay Jones has seen on the snaps that he plays or on the routes run is right around 14%. That's some loose math that I was doing while I was walking my dog. But let's talk about Odell because I had the Raiders as a potential landing spot post-cut, and that's probably my favorite spot for him overall. I was a big fan of the Colts possibly signing him. Or I'm sorry, trading for him.
Well, the Colts don't have a fucking season anymore because Wentz threw to triple coverage instead of throwing to his best player with no one than 20 yards of him because he's a fucking dolt head.
Yeah, now it's a little bit late for that. I think it might be past that point.
Fuck Carson Wentz.
But, hey, Jacob, look, I just want to tell you, look, I feel like, you're kind of like my younger brother, probably closer to son, but I feel like it's the third. I feel like it was good that I got to pass my Carson Wentz experiences directly to you, where, he has those games where you go, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, right? He had at least one of those games where you're like, this dude is just insanely good. Like, I don't know why everyone hates him. And then he has the last 2 weeks where not even the last 2 full weeks. It was just the last quarter and overtime in the 1 week, and then the full game.
He averaged less yards per passing attempt than Jonathan Taylor averaged per carry against the Titans.
That's not good. I'm not a math whiz, but not good.
He averaged 4.5 yards per attempt against the
but
Titans,
this is what Carson Wentz
exactly
does.
The 85 Bears, the Titans.
I forget who was it. Oh, it was Teddy Bruschi, right? Who I generally don't like, but he was spot on with he talked about before the game. Look, Carson Wentz, there's like 4 to 5 passes a game where you just know you can pick him off. Like he's going to do something stupid and something that you go, what? Yeah.
Under.
He's never, and that's never changed. And what's funny about it is when he's a rookie, he's a gunslinger. You hope he grows out of it. You're like, oh, that's good. He's got moxie. He's willing to take risks. Dude, you're like in year 8. Like, stop. These aren't risks. Like, these are just bad, poor percentage plays. What are you doing, dumbass? Anyway,
the Wentz thing, like, I'm sorry, this show's getting derailed, but I got to rant about this game. I mean, this game was so heartbreaking. I was watching this with my buddy. We were rooting for the Colts together. I mean, this game was our season, right? So you win this game, you're only one game out of the division. You know, you recover from 0-3, start everything's Gucci. You lose this game, all of a sudden, you know, you're really in a tough spot. And just such a tilting experience. I mean, they're up 14-0. First of all, there was one play where Tyquan Lewis, who's a defensive end, picked off Tannehill. He starts running, and like, look, if you weigh over 250 pounds and you have an interception, if you play defensive line and you have an interception, you need to fall down. You are not a ball carrier. Okay. He decided to be a ball carrier, and then he fumbled with no one touching him. He just fumbled of his own free will. And then the Titans got the ball back after the pick. AJ Brown scored a 60-yard touchdown on the next play to tie the game. It was so aggravating. And then you get, I mean, the Wentz one in the end zone was like almost excusable, because if he gets sacked there, it's a safety, and then the game's probably over anyway. But the one in overtime.
But the one in the end zone, if it doesn't look so bad,
right? But it always looks bad with Wentz. That's the thing. Yeah. Like I tweeted this with Wentz during the Niners game. It's like, you know, 95% of the plays this year, he's actually been good. But the 5% that he's not good are the worst 5% of like anyone on the earth. Like, he just looks like he's never played football before. And you get this overtime one. I mean, oh my goodness. I'm watching with my buddy, and he's like just much of a big Jonathan Taylor fan as I am, to the extent that like he even roots for the Colts just out of like a love for Jonathan Taylor. And we watch him leak out. The Titans drop all three linebackers. They're playing in a 4-3. They drop three linebackers back 15, 20 yards from the line of scrimmage. You should check out the dots from it. Bill Barnwell tweeted out. So the only players within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage are the 4 D linemen that are rushing Wentz. There's nobody else the first 20 yards. You have Taylor just leaks out, runs a little curl. There's no one within 15 yards of him. And Wentz is like, nope, triple coverage for me. And just hurls it to Pittman in triple coverage. I was like just screaming at the television. I just like sat there on the couch. I didn't speak. I was just like crying a little bit. It's just so hard to watch Carson sometimes, man. It's like you think he knows better, but he really doesn't. And so, yeah, Facebook user, we'll get to this trade question.
Let's get to his question. First of all, that was an awful trade. 2022 second and Gainwell for a first.
First.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those classic, like, you talk about making trades like that.
So this is
don't
Jamie.
Think they're possible.
I got such a steal for Gainwell, and now it's not much of a steal anymore, because one of the pieces I got was Ruggs. But I like the morning of the trade, I was able to move Gainwell or the morning of the game, like I had one Gainwell share. I was able to move him for Ruggs in a second. And I mean, I'm still actually fine with it because I'd rather have a second.
Oh, yeah. You'd much rather have a second. So you're fine with that.
This is Jamie in the chat, right? This actually happened in our league that we're all in together. And I traded.
Wait, am I in this league?
I stopped checking that league after I lost like 9 different players to IR. I
don't pay attention to that league. There's no money involved. I don't care.
I mean, hey, there's gonna be a trophy. Okay, there's gonna be a trophy. All right, so 3rd or 4th place.
Maybe in 2024, obviously.
I'm in like 3rd or 4th place, I think, and I traded away a 2021 first.
Oh, that's awful.
For Gainwell and a 2022 second. I'm
that's
a huge fan of
you have way too many future picks. I need you to lose some picks. That's
Chase.
On you.
Look, my team.
You do realize I have 6 first-round picks, and I'm trading away my own.
I know. Well, that's why I'm glad we finally got rid of one, because you.
And this draft is terrible.
It doesn't matter if that's the 112.
It's not terrible.
Still a first.
It is terrible.
It's still a first-round pick. That was an awful trade. You shouldn't have made it. I'm ashamed that you made that.
I will do it every single time.
Okay, well then send me some offers for running backs in the league that aren't kind of.
I'll give you Latavius Murray. At least he starts.
I don't like what. Dude, get out of here with that. All right, I'm still pissed off about that. I'm typing up Gainwell in my article earlier, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm still pissed at the way that Nick Sirianni had handled that.
I don't even care about this league, and now you're forcing me to go on and look at it and make a trade to you, because I can't believe you did that. That is awful.
Real quick, let's move on from this. Okay, I need to move on to talk about Derrick Henry, right? Because Derrick Henry, he's one of these running backs where people are confused whether they need to drop him or if they want to hold on to him. And, for redraft leagues, I was talking to Edwin Porras about this and actually listened to his podcast earlier. He's like, dude, I don't understand how you could keep him, because the majority of players that came back before the 9 games or maybe it was 10 games, 28% of them got re-injured to the same exact spot in their foot. And they were out for pretty much like almost an entire year after that. Meanwhile, the players that didn't get hurt saw a reduction in production of over 60% in those games. That's a great
phrase, reduction in production.
Yeah. So, yeah, they saw reduced production for, it was like 58% in the games they played up until they got past the 10-game, mark. So let's just hypothetically say that he comes back in 8 games. He gives you 2 weeks of terrible output and he stays healthy, but he gives you, suboptimal output. We're talking about a guy who, 10 points per game, you're starting him out there, and this is your fantasy playoffs, essentially. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'd rather just drop Gainwell. I'd rather just drop Derrick Henry and move on from there.
You were right about dropping Gainwell.
Yeah, I would drop Gainwell before I would drop Henry. I'll say this, right? So in 97% of the cases, you'd be correct, right? But with Derrick Henry, I am not willing to bet against him in anything. I'd hold on to him. I mean, unless I have to drop him, I'm holding on to him, because if there's one human being that I think, and I don't think it's a high percentage, but I think could come back at some point this year somehow and drop 200 yards on one foot, Derrick Henry would be that human being. And I'm not saying it's likely, but he's one of the few human beings that it's even possible with. And now, if it was any other running back, like if it's or Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, maybe I'd hold on to them. But if it was a Miles Sanders, see you next year.
To be fair, you should just drop Miles Sanders anyway. It's easier for your mental health.
If it's CEH, no, I'm good. If it's David Montgomery, I'm good. But Derrick Henry is just a different type of human being.
Yeah, I'd probably try to keep Henry, but it all comes down to like how many IR spots do you have? How many bench spots do you have? Like, what's the alternative? Like if it's a super shallow league, if you have like 5 bench spots and no IR, like I'm probably dropping them. If you have a couple IR spots plus 6, 7, 8 bench spots, like I'd like to do that. So, I definitely like to keep Henry if possible. The issue is it's just there's such a small window of where it makes any sense for them to play him. Yeah. Like realistically, like they beat the Colts this week, so they're going to win the division with or without Henry, barring a collapse from the Titans entirely. And I don't think they're going to entirely collapse. And so if they're already assured of a playoff spot, like why would you rush Henry back unnecessarily? Like you're going to want to preserve him. You're just going to want to keep him there and then bring him back for the actual playoffs, not our fantasy playoffs. So to me, like it's such a small window of opportunity, especially when there's only one bye available, where they're really going to be like, man, we really need this week 16 win. We need this week 17 win. Like they're probably not going to be that meaningful of a game to them. It's probably going to be the difference between like the 3 seed, the 4 seed. Who really cares? So I don't know.
You still have to make the fantasy playoffs at that point in order for him to matter. And you're talking about like week 15, 16, 17. I mean, mainly 16, 17. You're already passing up one round of the playoffs at that point in most leagues. I just don't love it. Like you're going to end up having to make the fantasy playoffs in the finals possibly in order to see any kind of production out of them.
That's fine. But if you can afford to roster them, fine. Hold it. Hold on to them. If you can't, then don't. I mean,
I'd trade him for Kenny Gainwell.
I would not trade him for Kenny Gainwell. I can get Kenny off the.
I'd rather have a roster spot than Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, I mean, I can.
I'm holding out hope for one more.
I think I would rather have the second defense.
I could get the second defense is huge. You know what I mean? Because you know how bad it is when you have to drop that defense that you really like because they're on bye. Anyway, come on, guys. We got to get moving. It's already 9:32. We're going to knock out a couple of these positions.
Are you kidding me? You've been talking most of the damn time, all right?
We're going to knock out these positions. Quarterback. Let's tell everyone the game.
Wait. Because I want to sit there. I want to explore Julio Jones.
Do you have like social activities tonight, Shane?
No. All right, so Julio Jones. Julio Jones, is he going to be more relevant if he's actually healthy at some point this season? How are we feeling about Julio Jones?
Yeah.
Is he worth investing in? Is he worth trading for? Or are we just, is he going to be the same player we've seen throughout the start of the season?
I mean, if he's ever healthy, sure. But I don't know. I'm like king of the I don't care about injuries. First of all, Tom, that's not true. That's not true. He was great in 2018 before he got hurt.
By the way,
all
everybody's listening to the podcast. He's talking about OBJ.
Yeah, so Tom says the same thing that I'm pretty sure it's been copy and pasted off Twitter more than like the Carson Wentz is like all of his tats, and they used to do the thing like what the Philly Twitter used to do, and they would just reply to everything. So no, Tom, he wasn't wide receiver 15. Look at the points per game. He was great in 2018 until he got hurt. He was a wide receiver 1. Then in 2019, he was a wide receiver 3. I believe he was like wide receiver 26 or something. And 2020 in points per game, he was a mid wide receiver 2 last year. So he's fine. Get him. Honestly, put him on the frickin' Saints with Taysom Hill. He'll be a wide receiver 1.
Wait, 12.4 points a game last year. That's a mid wide receiver 2 last year.
Well, if you count the game that he played like 2 snaps, sure.
I'm just saying. I mean,
personally, I don't count the game that he tore his ACL off of Baker's shitty interception.
Well, that's an excuse. I mean, if you're going to make excuses for the guy. So last year, just, when he balled out, he had 1, 2, 3 games before tearing his knee. I'm just saying,
he hasn't been great any year.
3 games with 9.9 or fewer fantasy points. His halcyon week was the 38.4, and we all came all over ourselves because we were like, Odell's back. And he followed that up with 11.4 and then 4.5. Like, look, trust me, I was a big Odell guy. He was at one point the dynasty number 1 asset. He just was before I truly understood Superflex. But still, he was the overall 1 asset, but he is not there now. He's not there. And yes, Thomas Tipple, I am trying to get Bateman from you live on air. And I also made
good luck getting it from Tom.
I also made an offer to Chase that involves one of the players that I offered to you. So one of you needs to accept it anyway.
Do I get an offer? I don't think I have anyone that you want. Everybody's on
back to Julio. Is Julio going to be a thing?
No.
Probably not. I'm always the guy who's buying these injured players. So like, if anybody would be into Julio, you'd think it'd be me. I mean, I was the clown buying Michael Thomas all summer, and I've been buying OBJ forever, and I probably still will. And I mean, Will Fuller's on all my fucking rosters. I don't understand why he's missing 2 months with a broken finger. Anyway,
dude, I have Will Fuller too. It's killing me. It's hurting my soul.
Anyway, yeah, like seriously, like it's a finger. What? Just get out there, tape it. Anyway, Julio. My issue with Julio is that it's not like he's just sort of it's not like the Fuller situation, right? Where it's like he broke a finger, he had a personal issue, where it's all these different things. Not even like Saquon, where he tore the ACL, then all of a sudden he rolled his ankle the same way. Now he has COVID, like where it's just like super frustrating. Like it's actually just really predictable. He has a hamstring injury that he's re-aggravated like 13 times. So I just no, but like last year, this year, he just keeps re-aggravating the same hamstring injury over and over and over again. So to me, like I don't really see it as like isolated injuries. It's just he's basically had a completely bum hamstring for 2 years. I really hope that he's valuable. I mean, here's where I'm at with Julio. Any week that he comes in off of a full practice on Friday and he's healthy, I will play him in DFS because I think that he always has upside. But will I trust him to stay healthy for multiple weeks at a time and season long? Probably not. Like, I'd trade for him if I can get him for like totally free. I have a trade at 20. I'd probably maybe even trade a 2nd round pick for him in Dynasty if it's late, maybe. But it's really hard to trust because it's the same injury over and over and over again.
Yep. I'm in agreement with you for the most part. If somebody offers me something decent, like at the back end of my roster, if somebody's desperate, maybe like a Zach Moss type player, somebody that I'm a running back that I'm hoarding on the back end of my roster, tight end, maybe I have 2, which I normally don't. I normally stream tight ends. Maybe I have 2 just because I hit on like Tyler Conklin and somebody else. I might move one of those guys for like Julio, just for the people that are nervous. But outside of that, his health is a major, major concern. And also knowing when you feel good starting him. Now, I know that Tannehill is going to pass more often without Derrick Henry, but yeah, I don't love that situation over there for Julio. Do you have anything to add, Shane?
No, you guys hit it on the head.
The Henry thing. Do you think they actually will pass more? Like, this is like where I'm. This is what I'm wondering with Henry. So I've had this take for a while. That's like I've always said it's my worst take, that I think the Titans offense could be better without Henry, which obviously, yeah. But I mean, okay, it's not as though like I think that Henry's bad. Obviously, Henry's like the best running back in the NFL. You look at the plays that they run when they have Henry, and 75% of them are just wasted downs. Like they come out in this absurdly archaic set from 1952, and they just ram them up the middle for 2 yards, and it's totally purposeless. Look, if they just ran a modern offense with Henry, that's the ideal scenario. my hope is they waste less plays and they try to actually play functional football without Henry. But it's kind of this whole like guessing game situation where part of the reason why Henry's so valuable is because the defense, they really gear up to stop him. And so they get so many passing plays off against 8-man boxes. I mean, A.J. Brown's yards per route run against 8-man boxes is like over 4. It's insane how effective they are in those situations. Will the defenses still treat them that way without Henry? Probably not. I certainly wouldn't. But then the other thing is, like, will the Titans actually adjust to their new reality? Like, I think that they run an offense that I don't even think is optimized with Henry, but it's absolutely not optimized without Henry. And if they run that same offense with Adrian Peterson and Jeremy McNichols, it's going to be a disaster. I'm hopeful that they'll actually embrace the forward pass now, but we'll see. Vrabel's going to Vrabel. Like, would it truly shock anyone if they just show up on Sunday night and they run Adrian Peterson 22 times out of the I formation? Because if they do, that won't end well for them.
No, I could see that happening, but I can also see them being in a bunch of 3rd and longs and dumping off to Jeremy McNichols. So
yeah, I think I need to look this up because I don't know what the touchdown rate is, but I'm pretty sure that the Tennessee Titans touchdown rate is like astronomical, like not only in passing but in rushing as well. So I would like to see the touchdown rate. I just tried to look it up real quick and I couldn't find it in like 2 seconds, but I know that it's through the roof in passing. I'm pretty sure it's still high up there for rushing rate. So, I mean, as long as you're scoring touchdowns, that's all you want from an offense. The only thing is, like, they score too fast and then they're not giving the defense time to breathe on the other end. But it's like, that's the only way that I could see it being counterproductive is like, if your defense can't keep up, then towards the tail end of games, you might not be able to score in like the last 3 drives or whatever. And all of a sudden, your opponent is able to score because your defense is so worn down by that point. But I can see what you're saying without him being on there now. If they try to run the same offense, it's going to be essentially almost counterproductive because, like Shane brought up, you're going to be in a lot of 3rd and long situations. And yeah, they could jump it off to McNichols, but he's not going to bring it to the house like Derrick Henry would on a stretch run play on 2nd. So yeah, I agree with you. And that pretty much kind of answers the Tannehill outlook. So let's go ahead and dive into another quarterback, talking about Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts? Are we excited about Jordan Love, getting to see him? Obviously not for fantasy maybe, but, might give us a little bit of insight of what's come for the Packers and possibly give us a little bit of insight to their weapons as to whether Jordan Love can be successful or not, seeing some legitimate snaps in the season.
No, it's good that we'll get to see Jordan Love on the field. I don't know if Adams is going to play. It'd be nice if he was because I would like to see him.
Probably be cleared.
Yeah, I would like to see him with a modicum of weapons out there, and Adams and Aaron Jones is sufficient enough. Like they're so elite at their specific positions that I can consider that a good offense. So it'd be interesting to see him with a good offense. Like I hope he's not out there with like just Alan Lazard, MVS, Equinemius, St. Brown, and Malik Taylor. Was it Malik Taylor?
Malik Taylor was the guy that he was targeting. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Malik Taylor. Anton Wesley was the Cardinals guy. It was Jarrett.
Winfrey.
Wesley
no?
was Winfrey.
No, Malik Taylor.
Winfrey. No, it was Winfrey.
Okay. Yeah,
Winfrey was this past week. Taylor was in week 1 is who Jordan Love targeted the most in week 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but this past week was Winfrey character.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, Winfrey. I mean, if Adams doesn't play, does Jordan Love see over or under, 20 attempts, 30 attempts?
Yes, because they'll lose, and so they'll have to pass.
Is that guaranteed with all the turnovers that Patrick Mahomes is throwing over there?
Yeah. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is throwing. Okay, so he's not playing well, but he's also. I've never seen anyone run as bad as Patrick Mahomes is running. Like he's had multiple interceptions deflect off of Tyreek Hill's hands on perfectly thrown passes. This last one was like the throw was off by maybe half a foot, but I mean it doinked off Jerick McKinnon's helmet into somebody's hand. Like these interceptions are just absurd the way that they're happening.
He's having some serious regression that I mean, like my dude was all danger plays, just like whatever. Oh, YOLO behind the back, no look, fucking across my body pass, and it's just a strike down the field. And then this year, it's like just a simple like slant, and yeah, like you said, it's just bouncing off someone's face and getting picked off. Like God hates him this year. I don't remember what
Reminded
the
me of
question was.
the replacements. Remind me of the replacements where he just takes it and launches it right into the defender's helmet, just shoots straight up in the air, and then the big guy scores a touchdown. We're talking about we were talking about Jordan Love and seeing opportunities to pass. Shane, like, do you think he's going to pass a ton in this game?
I think he's going to. I mean, again, is Adams playing? Because if Adams is playing, I think the coaches would go, "Hey, what you want to do is you see that Devontae Adams fella always open." That Aaron Jones fella, that Aaron Jones guy out of the backfield, when that Devontae Adams fella isn't open for some reason, or you believe him not to be open, you throw it to that Aaron Jones fella, and then we have a good game. And
Lazard, you're out there to block.
Yeah, if you don't think those two are open, like you were absolutely certain of it, then just run, dude. Run for your fucking life. So I think he'll be okay, because I think. Look, he sat on the bench long enough, and he's not. I don't believe he's a stupid kid, right? He went to college. He's smart enough to go, hey, that Devontae Adams guy, pretty good. I'm gonna throw the ball his way.
Yeah, I think if they have Adams, that changes everything. Like you're talking about the best wide receiver in the entire planet of Earth, or the worst wide receiver room. I don't know what's worse, the Packers wide receiver room without Adams, or the Saints wide receiver room.
The
like
Saints
terrible,
wide receiver.
right?
Yeah, Traquan Smith is wow. Geez, dude, like
Got
he's
a
lucky
touchdown.
Jameis got hurt, because if he didn't, Jameis would have wound up just beating his ass on the sidelines in another 2 weeks if he continued fucking up.
I mean, Kevin White was the lead wide receiver for the Saints last week.
Yeah,
Oh, God, that's
that
amazing.
Kevin White.
So, real quick, Facebook user, I will get into it once we actually dive into this next segment that we're about to talk about. Do we have any other takes on this Aaron Rodgers conundrum?
No,
It's hilarious.
Don't eat clay,
That's
kids.
my take. My take is that it's really funny. I mean, the dude's been actively lying. He's kept up this ruse where he was like, I've been immunized, because he was doing his own homeopathic bizarro world treatment. I mean, I find it pretty hilarious. I mean, I don't find it hilarious if he actually gets really sick off COVID. Obviously, that would be terrible. I'm not rooting for that whatsoever. But my hope is that he ends up just fine and he plays in a couple of weeks, and that we all remember that Aaron Rodgers is a massive weirdo.
I just hope he gets the poos from eating clay. That's really all I hope.
I think he's just a smarter version of Cole Beasley, to be honest. But hasn't he been following?
So he's a rock.
Yes. So hasn't he been following the protocol? Like, hasn't he been doing all the things that somebody that doesn't take the vaccine? Like,
well, yes and no. He's been apparently doing it in the facility, but not wearing masks. Like in the second preseason game, he wasn't wearing a mask. If you're not vaccinated, you should be wearing a mask when you're not active. He's been doing all these press conferences maskless. And I know that that's something you can't do if you're not vaxxed, because Brandon Ayuk has been doing these masked press conferences, so everyone realized he wasn't vaccinated. That's why people thought Kyle Shanahan hated him. So I think I don't know what Rodgers is up to, but I mean that's a legitimate risk. If you have Aaron Rodgers, I think he's at some form of risk of being suspended for dodging these protocols too. I would make sure to have a backup plan.
Yeah, and that could be Jordan Love. So
yeah, it's absolutely
keep it on him, especially up against the Chiefs. Now, so let's go ahead and hop into this, guys. We have our top 20. What is this? Running backs and wide receivers, right? We cannot pick any one of those. Then anybody inside the top 15 for the quarterback or tight end position, we can't pick any of those guys. We have to pick players that we think are going to finish inside the top 12. So last week, you ended up going with the dose score for Michael Carter, hit that. I went with Michael Pittman for the wide receiver, hit on that. And then we had Dan Arnold from Jacob again. He was the tight end too, hit on that. So we're going to try and find players that are not inside that top 20 who have a chance to finish inside the top 12. And do you want to kick this one off since we were just talking about it, Jacob?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm a Jordan Love truther from way back in the pre-draft process. A take that I had that was not very good was that I had him as my QB3 in the class ahead of Justin Herbert. That obviously is aged very poorly. Justin Herbert is the QB1 in the class. However, my candle for Jordan Love burns as bright as ever. I'm hopeful that Devontae Adams will play, and if he does, Jordan Love gets to go up against the worst defense in the National Football League, and I expect him to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns because he's awesome. And he's going to prove why he's the future of the Green Bay Packers franchise without the creepy anti-vaxxer deadhead Aaron Rodgers.
All right. I'm going to take the easy one. Well, it wasn't so easy because we don't know if he's going to pass concussion protocol. I don't think he has yet, but Taysom
No,
Hill.
he's gonna play, but it might be Trevor Siemian that gets the starting nod.
Really? Okay, I didn't catch up with that.
I saw an interesting video from Nick Underhill, who's the most plugged in Saints reporter you can find. And he was at practice today. He said that Taysom looks healthy. Everything's on track for him to return and be healthy. But he said that the starting quarterback decision, we probably won't know until game time because Peyton keeps everything under wraps. But that he said it might not go the way we think.
Why would that be the case over there? Because I mean, this is a guy that almost won the starting job. You know, a lot of people thought that he should have won the starting job until Jameis Winston goes out in like the third preseason game and throws 2 bombs to Marquez Callaway, right? So
yeah, where did that play go, by the way?
Dude, I have no idea. That only happened up against Washington, I'm pretty sure. So no, I think that Taysom Hill should end up seizing the starting role. Hopefully he does. You know, there's not too many other guys outside the top 15 that I wanted to play with. I mean, I was kind of tilting with Justin Fields a little bit up against Pittsburgh because you can't run against Pittsburgh. But then I saw that you actually cannot run up against Pittsburgh, and that includes quarterbacks as well. So I faded that one. Shane, where are you sitting with this?
I don't like any of this.
That's why I just stuck with Taysom Hill.
I mean, I agree with Taysom. If he starts, he's top 5 potential.
I'm just going to chase the points and go with fucking Mike White.
I honestly went with Mike White over Taysom Hill because it would have made me feel safer.
I'm just chasing the points, and Indianapolis gives up points to the to the quarterback position. So fuck it. Look, it's ugly after the top 12 this week. Top 15. It is not a pretty sight out there.
Hey, they also give up points to the pass catching running backs.
How bad is Zach Wilson, by the way? That Mike White is just so clearly the best quarterback on the Jets.
So Mike White is at least smart enough to understand that my only option in this offense is 20 attempts to my running backs. Wilson is young and brave and is like, no, we're gonna make a play. We're gonna make something happen, guys. And his wide receivers are like, no. That is incorrect. We are not going to make a play. We are going to just get no separation and good luck, kid. Where's Mike White? Like I said, Mike White's just like Ty Johnson and Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, Michael Carter. So there you go.
Hey, Denzel Mims finally ran a bunch of routes. He led the team in routes. He had a 6% target share, but he ran a lot of routes. And he dropped a touchdown, but he ran a lot of routes.
Yeah, well, he's not going to see those targets from Mike White. Mike White is going towards the running backs, and the Colts actually have a really poor dose score, so it's kind of interesting, right? We're about to hop in the running back position, so I'll start with my guy, but first I'm going to explain the dose score. It takes the pass-catching running backs the teams have played, grades them out, and then you come out with a score where it shows the fantasy points that they've allowed versus the running backs. And the Colts, they haven't played any pass-catching running backs, like barely at all. I think Myles Gaskin was like the only one that...
Not counting Derrick Henry?
I did count Derrick Henry and Jerry McDougal's in this one, but neither one of them really saw many opportunities. They saw a total of 5 targets in those games. We look at the Seahawks. They don't really use their pass-catching running backs. That was week 1 when they didn't pass those guys. The Rams, they don't use pass-catching running backs. The Titans, Ravens, the Texans, the 49ers, the Titans, once again. I mean, the only team that they play that uses a pass-catching running back is Myles Gaskin, and he barely even played that game. I don't even know what happened, but yet they're still giving up 7 points
Malcolm
per game.
Brown was the guy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Colts are 3rd up against running backs when it comes to overall, and on the ground, they're probably the best team up against the running back. They're probably the best rushing defense. So it's kind of strange that not more teams have used pass catching running backs on these guys. However, they still are giving up right around 6.9 fantasy points to the position in the air to pass catching running backs. So I think that Michael Carter is going to have a massive game. I think that he's going to be the real test for the Colts to see if they're actually good up against the running backs as a whole or not. And I think Michael Carter will smash and give you like 15 points in the air.
I think he'll get targets. I just don't think we're going to see the big plays that him and Johnson got against Cincinnati. Darius Leonard is just rallies to the ball way too fast to allow them to average like 10 yards a catch like Cincinnati was putting together. But I think they're going to get targets and they'll be fine.
All right, so I'm going to start with my running back, and it's actually going to be on the other side of this ball because the Jets are horrific up against pass-catching running backs. Nyheim Hines, which you know me, I'm not a big Nyheim Hines guy. I like Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is the dude. I've literally shit on Nyheim Hines, but this just feels like a Nyheim Hines game. Now, it makes me a little bit nervous because the past 3 out of 4 games, he hasn't even qualified as a pass-catching back because he's ran less than 10 routes. This past week, I believe he ran like 16, and the Jets are giving up 17 points per game to the position, and they're actually worse than the Seahawks were last year up against pass-catching running backs. I think Nyheim Hines is in a prime position to smash up against the Jets, and if the Colts go up, even if they go up, I think that Nyheim Hines will still see touches because I don't think they're going to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground in a game that they should be up in.
No, I think Jonathan Taylor is just going to absolutely destroy them. I think the Colts coaching staff has realized that, John Taylor is kind of special. I was listening. Who was I listening to? I think it was JJ Zacharyson, and he talked about John Taylor had a 94% rush share last week, which is just ridiculous. I think
he played a season high in snaps too.
Yeah,
season high in routes.
They've rightly realized, Nyheim Hines is kind of ass.
I wish that they realized that before they gave him $18 million.
Well, look, it's not always important that you're right first, but just recognizing that at some point your mistakes. And I think the Marlon Mack experience, now that they can't trade him, is over. So
I hope so.
I just think we'll see a ton of John Taylor. Like I understand your reasoning for Nyheim Hines. I just think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor that absorbs all that work, like one of those, like when there's twins in the fetus, and the one twin eats the other one. That's kind of like what Jonathan Taylor's doing to Nyheim's work.
And I agree with you. And this is the case with like J.D. McKissick, right? Last year. And then we saw the same games happen with Chase Edmonds, right? But this is the point of the whole dose score, right? You guys can find it at fantasyintervention.com/dose. It's when to figure out when to play these running backs. And I truly think that this is one of those weeks. It just has, it written all over it. And like I said, I don't like Nyheim Hines. The recency bias should tell me that I should not like Nyheim Hines this week, but the dose score is telling me something different. I've got to go with the dose score on this one.
I like it. I'll tell you what. Like I'm going to play Thursday Night Showdown this week, and I'm going to play Hines in a bunch of lineups just solely out of deference to the dose score, because no one's going to play Hines because his role has been non-existent for 3 straight weeks.
Yes,
but we saw it with Brandon Bolden. Brandon Bolden has done nothing any week except for the week that they played the Jets, and then he turned into an RB1. So maybe the dose score is just enough signal to lull Nyheim Hines out of the pit of despair for 1 week only. That's enough for me to trust him in a showdown lineup.
Hey, and James White went off against the Jets. I mean, we just see these running backs like time and time again just destroy them. I mean, Jeremy McNichols saw 12 targets, had 8 receptions for 74 yards. And you thought that's a game, Derrick Henry should destroy, right? Like, this is the perfect example of it. You have Derrick Henry, who still ended up doing well, I believe, in that game. Yeah, he crushed it. He had 157 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor can still do that, while Jeremy McNichols still sees 8 receptions on 12 targets. That could be the role for Hines for 74 yards, by the way. That's 15.4% out.
Speaking of Jeremy McNichols, that's my running back pick this week. Also, bottom 5 in the dose score are the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football. Now, I think Adrian Peterson works his way into probably being their lead back on the early downs, but probably not this week. I think for at least 1 week and 1 week only, Jeremy McNichols gets an opportunity to show why he should be, certainly not a full-on replacement for Derrick Henry, but the clear lead back in all phases while Peterson gets up to speed. You'd also expect them to face negative game script against the Rams this week, especially as they try to adjust to life without the big dog. And I expect the little dog, Jeremy McNichols, to catch 6-7 passes in this spot, get 6-7 carries in the spot. We don't know exactly how they're going to align their goal line work. He might be able to get a touchdown. So give me Jeremy McNichols.
All right, so I'm jumping on the site, and I'm not quick enough in many aspects of my life, so I don't see the dose score for Houston.
I have it. Oh, they're actually at the top of the list. They're second overall because their linebackers are actually good, and they don't need to pass up against them, or you don't need to pass up against them.
Well, so I was leaning towards Myles Gaskin. Now that hearing that, I'm a little less bullish on him.
Doesn't matter because their pass down running back is Patrick Laird, so you don't even need to worry about it.
That's just ridiculous. What is wrong with you, Miami? Patrick Laird. Stop it. So then top 20, 15 for so outside the top 20. Well, it doesn't matter because Myles Gaskins was inside the top 20 anyway.
That's the top 20. How bad is the top 20?
I am gonna go with
oh my god.
Boy, it's hard in the streets. You guys took some really good ones. I'm gonna go ahead and take Zachariah Moss.
Well, that's a great one. He's outside the top 20?
Yeah.
He's 21.
Oh, that's awesome. 21, I like Zach Moss.
Jacksonville is bad in every facet of the game. I don't know what their dose score is.
It does not need to do it through the air against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
do it on the ground.
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't matter because he's going to fucking smash them in the face on the ground. And he gets the red zone work. So we might see a Zach Moss 2-touchdown day where I yell at the TV and say that Devin Singletary could do that too if you would just give him the chance.
And are you a Singletary guy?
I don't want to talk about it, but I will go with Zachary Moss this week.
I'm Singletary over Zach Moss.
Oh, I'm such a Zach Moss guy, and this is awesome. We're blasting balls all over the place this week with Zach Moss. He's taken over this backfield. He was over 73% snaps a few weeks ago, came down to 55, back up over 60 this week. He got this last week 100% of the 2-minute drill and long down and distance pass game work plus the goal line work. Singletary gets about half the meaningless first and second down carries between the 20s, which no one really cares about because neither of them are efficient on that anyway. I'm all in on Zach Moss. I didn't know he was outside the top 20. I would have picked him, but Zach Moss rules. Singletary drools.
Oh god, you need touchdowns for Zach Moss.
He's gonna get him, baby. They're gonna score like 6 touchdowns with the Jags. I mean, come on.
Oh man, and then Zach Moss is gonna bust the knee. All right, so let's go on to wide receiver.
My 15% best ball exposure to Zach Moss. He's loving life.
All right, let's go on to wide receiver. We have Jerry Jeudy for myself. This is tough because playing the Cowboys makes me nervous. We know that Diggs shuts down these big guys. You know, we talk about matchups, right?
Wow.
He shuts down the big guys.
I was going to say, we know Diggs gets interceptions, but we also know that he gets baked several times a game.
Not several times a game. It does not happen several times.
It happened repeatedly, multiple times.
Okay, either way, he's great up against big physical receivers, and he does not get baked by them. You know, we saw it happen with Mike Evans. I brought it up last year on multiple different occasions.
He's good against wide receivers named Mike.
Yeah, that's true too. However, you know, I thought that he was going to end up facing Mike Williams, right? And I talked about it that week. I was like, Mike Williams is going to get shut down because this is where Diggs' strengths lie. Right? You know, sometimes he struggles up against quick twitch receivers, so he most likely won't be on Keenan Allen. He goes up against Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen gets a ton of volume, ends up putting up a 100-yard day barely in like garbage time. But he pretty much got shut down by Diggs, and I'm afraid that Diggs might actually move over to cover Jerry Jeudy if Jerry Jeudy decides to play out the slot or whatever the case is. I like Jerry Jeudy. I think that he elevates the game for Bridgewater. Bridgewater is actually like top 10 in almost every single category you want for a quarterback. You talk about air yards,
yeah, but
right?
He's not. He's bottom 10, and do I want to watch them?
I know, right? Well, that was Shane's point back a few weeks ago, is how boring he was to watch. But every category that you want, yeah, every category that you want, he's actually like he excels in for a quarterback. Like, you know, money throws, like, you know, deep passes, red zone attempts. He's like top 10 in red zone attempts. However, he still doesn't perform at a high level because his receivers don't do anything after he gets the ball in their hands. They literally just fall down. It's like the Calvin Ridley, you know, ordeal where he can't do anything with the ball in his hands. And that's his whole entire receiving corps. So I see with Jerry Jeudy, if he can get the ball in his hands, we know he can make plays. We know that he can, you know, shake some defenders, get some yards after the catch. I think I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy on this one up against Jordan Lewis in the slot. Or Noah Brown.
Husker, are you on the show sheet, my man? Husker already stole my pick. And I saw Dave was already saying Rondale earlier, which you could say Rondale too. But Christian Kirk against the 49ers, that's my pick. DeAndre Hopkins, hilarious. I mean, what a warrior. Kingsbury literally couldn't keep him off the field on Thursday night. He told Hopkins to sit down, and Hopkins would just walk onto the field. He would sneak out there with like a fake mustache and a monocle. And he'd roll out in the field, be like, "Yeah, Antoine Wesley, you go take a seat, bud. I'm playing this down." And Kingsbury like, "Dude, get off the field." Tom, I don't need a nap, man. Come on. We're talking about Christian Kirk here. I'm excited to talk about Christian Kirk. And then now you got AJ Green. He's on the COVID list. I don't know if he's on the Rodgers plan or if he's been vaccinated, but either way, you'd think it's unlikely that he plays this week. So you have no AJ Green, possibly even no DeAndre Hopkins against, a 49ers team that has been pretty bad and beaten up at the cornerback position this year. I mean, their pass defense made Justin Fields look good, or maybe that was just Matt Nagy not being there. I'm not sure.
I think it's Matt Nagy.
One of the two. I have no concerns. Obviously, the caveat would be if Kyler Murray does not play, then I don't want to play Christian Kirk.
Too bad you already picked him.
But I already picked him. I'm locked in. Kyler said he thinks we're ready to go. So give me Christian Kirk in this one. A player who pretty much every time I put my faith in has disappointed me throughout my life. So I'm expecting about 2 catches.
All right. Well, we're running long, so I don't know if I'll get the tight ends, and no one cares about tight ends anyway. Because basically you just throw a fork at the wall and see what sticks.
No, I have an elite tight end this week. But Chase tried to steal it on the show sheet, I won't let him know.
But wide receiver, I'm going to go ahead and take my dude Jalen Waddle. Last 3 weeks, he's got a 26% target share. For the what do you call those folks? The Miami people. Since Tua came back, he's got 32 targets over the last 3 games or something like that, mid-30s. Houston's pass defense doesn't look as bad as it is when you look at the fantasy points allowed, but that's mostly because they get absolutely smoked in the first half of most games, and then most teams are just like, we don't want to throw on you anymore. Can we just end this game? We will run the ball down your throat now because they're bad at everything. So I'm going to go with my boy Jalen Waddle because him and my dude Tua Tagovailoa.
That was really close.
Damn it, I thought it was right. They've really meshed really well over really all year, but these past 3 weeks since Tua came back, he's just been, targeting his dude, Jalen. So that's where we're going.
That's a great one at the tight end position. I'm taking Albert Okwuegbunam.
No,
I had a thread ready to go the second that I saw Noah Fant at the COVID list. And I don't want to celebrate the great Noah Fant having COVID-19. That's no joke. I wish nothing but the best for Noah Fant. However, Albert, baby, look, this man at 258 pounds runs a 4.49 40. Do you understand what that means? He's just AJ Brown at 260 pounds, and he plays tight end. He's getting covered by linebackers. The Denver offense has a tight end run a pass play on over 100% of their snaps. He's been about 35% route participation, while Fant is up over 70%. When Albert O missed, they basically treated Fant as a wide receiver. He was getting up over 95% of the routes on occasions. Now they're a 10-point underdogs. They're going to have to pass to keep pace against the Dallas Cowboys. Presuming that Noah Fant misses, I think Albert Okwuegbunam is a top 5 tight end play on the entire slate, especially a week when there's no Gronk, there's no TJ Hawkinson, there's no whatever tight end Washington decides to run out for 100% of the routes no matter what. I am beyond excited to play Albert O in every lineup that I have him, which is a fuckload of dynasty leagues because I'm obsessed with Albert Okwuegbunam. And I think that he's going to get you quite a usable week this week. He's also going to probably be 40% owned in DFS.
Yeah, he's going to see some massive usage in DFS this week. And he was my pick, and I had him on the sheet first, but I'll give him to you. I'm going to go with a little bit different route right here. I'm going to go with somebody that I believed in the preseason. I believe in the system that he's in. I just, he's somebody that's unimpressive. Still going to take a shot on him this week. It's probably going to end up going up in flames, so don't take me too seriously on this one. I might give 1 share in DFS just to try and back up this take, but Tyler Kroft.
Oh my gosh.
It's bad, but he's up against the Colts, right?
He's killer.
The Colts have allowed, I believe, the second most touchdowns per game to the tight end position.
Cover 2, baby.
I mean, they've had games of 63 yards and a touchdown allowed to tight end, 160 yards and 2 touchdowns to the tight end. 50 yards, that was an 11-point game. And then what is this one right here? 7 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown last week up against the Titans. I mean, they're just giving away touchdowns and yards to tight ends that have no business doing it. I mean, I think that Tyler Kroft in this system, who, by the way, he's running the routes. He took a little bit of a hit when he got hurt, or whatever he was dealing with over the past 2 weeks.
Eclipsed Ryan Griffin now in routes?
He definitely did. I'm pretty sure he did last week.
I want to congratulate him then.
But he saw 2 receptions last week, I believe, for 20 yards and a touchdown. That's not great. But he's a guy that can get in the end zone up against the Colts, and if he gets me 50 yards and a touchdown, I'm happy.
What's the thing that they say on Live in the Stream? You could do worse. That's how I feel about it.
That's literally my motto. Like week 9, like after week 9 on every waiver wire ad, it's like, look, there's worse shit out there than this. I counted with Sanders for
I know. Oscar, like, believe it or not, I do this show.
Shane didn't even see it. Shane didn't even see when I put it up earlier. Shane just offered me Booker and Connor for Miles Sanders. I kind of was Sanders for a meatball sub.
I would so much rather have a meatball sub than Miles.
I gotta be honest with you.
Every time that I ever have a meatball sub, it brings me nothing but joy. Every time I start Miles Sanders, it brings me nothing but pain.
If I could get some chips with that. Anywho, I'm going with Dan Arnold.
How is he still outside the top 15? He's elite.
He's elite.
He's 13. What number are we going up to?
You can have 12 if you want. You can play Dan Arnold if you want.
It's 12, right?
It's 15, but you can have it.
Well, whoever. Who's outside the 15? I already closed it.
I'm not going to name all those players. You can stick with Dan Arnold if you really, really want.
I'll go with Dan Arnold, and look, I'll even get
an asterisk.
I'll say he will give me a top 5 finish.
There you go.
Okay, that's fair.
For no particular reason, the Jacksonville the Jaguars absolutely love him and have made him and Jamal Agnew the focal point of the offense over the last 3 weeks.
So sad.
He's got 23 targets to 24 for Marvin Jones, just mind-boggling, and 17 compared to Laviska Shenault. Jamal Agnew, it's even worse, to be quite honest with you. Jamal Agnew actually is out-targeted both of them. I'm going to go with Dan Arnold. Targets, man. Just
did
targets.
Agnew see 12 targets last week for like 28 yards or something?
Yeah. He had 6
so
receptions
sad.
for 39 yards and a touchdown. I didn't look at how many of those throws were offline, but it's not great, Bob. And that's who they're running the offense through, those two. So, okay.
It's a shocker they only scored 8 points.
Yeah.
Man, I shout out to my man Eric Bonfor, who was in second place. He was winning $150,000 in a tournament going into the fourth quarter of that game. And he had played Pat Freiermuth. And Dan Arnold, I don't know how much you played DFS, Shane, but Dan Arnold was the stone chalk on DraftKings last week. He was 60% owned in small field, high dollar tournaments. Well, when you play these high stakes, like I don't play this high stakes, but like this is a $4,000 single entry tournament. When you play in these high stakes small fields, like the ownership just gets super condensed around the sharpest plays. And Arnold was 60% owned. He had like 2 catches going in the fourth quarter, and he put up 6 catches in garbage time in these meaningless drives in the fourth quarter, and he dropped all the way from 2nd to 6th. And so, I mean, you still did great. Obviously had a huge winning week, but he was tweeting about it. I was like, oh my God, like I could not imagine the pain of watching 120,000 of my dollars go by the wayside because Dan Arnold is catching 5-yard drag routes repeatedly.
No, that's when you just look. That's when you know life is not your friend, and you just look for alternate methods of survival, of sustenance, of awareness, of consciousness, because this mortal plane isn't for you.
Dan Arnold is for you.
I hit my first spot where I have to redeposit. So I take out money every week for DFS and for pick'ems and all that stuff. I leave $100 in there. It's the first week that I actually have to deposit everything back in since week 2 when everything went just like really screwy. But I'm kind of pissed off about it because like I like to sit there and take out money and pay my rent, pay my phone bills and everything every single week. But it's crazy because this was like these past 2 weeks have been my most successful weeks for Dynasty and for redraft. But for DFS and pick'ems, it just wasn't it. I mean, part of that had to do with Patrick Mahomes and, a couple other random plays. But.
Yeah, Patty Mahomes 2 weeks ago absolutely dusted me so badly.
Yeah, he actually limited my input for this past week from 2 weeks ago when he got hurt. That sucked. But let's go ahead and get out of here. Oh, Jacob, Where can we find you?
You can find me on the Twitter app, twitter.com/FF_RTDB. You'll find that because I lost a bet, because Carson Wentz has to throw into triple coverage, and my current name on Twitter is King Henry, forever my daddy. And that lasts for a period of 7 days. I can't wait till that period is ended. Anyway, that's where you can find me. You can find the Pareto Principles for week number 9. That's the correct week number 9, up on playerprofiler.com. And you can find me on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast network with the Full Tilt Dynasty pod. On Friday, we are doing a mock draft because it's that time of year when we can't come up with new content, and it's about halfway through. So we're doing a mock draft. And then Saturday, you'll find me for No Free Squares to talk through the DFS slate and just how many Bills can we play against the Jags in one lineup.
All 4.
Like 5? Actually, no,
All
they
right,
don't allow
Shane.
you to do that, I don't think.
At Shane on the Shane is the worst, not Shane on the worst. That's a
Shane
date.
is the worst senior.
Shane on the worst is a date. Anyway, Shane is the worst on Twitter. You can find my written content at dynastyleaguefootball.com and fantasydata.com. Dynasty Trades HQ. You can also find Mannequin Chill on the DLF YouTube channel, and you can find Dynasty Trades in 5 on the YouTube channel. And we usually have a new episode every night, 5 minutes. Check it out.
I just want to say, Dave, thank you for coming in, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Coming into the show.
real.
We're happy to have you back. The show's never the same without you and your bagged milk. So we're glad that you tuned in. And thanks to everybody for going. Also, free Odell.
Yeah, Posture Thomas, thanks for joining as well. And yeah, Toronto, this is why I'm so pissed off about Kenneth Gainwell, because every lineup that I hit on, I also had Kenneth Gainwell in.
Whenever you can play a third string running back at 17% owned, you got to do it.
Oh, man, it was so brutal. I hated every last ounce of it. That really sucked. All right, you guys can go check me out over there at FF_intervention. You guys can find the Dose score, DOCE, over there at fantasyintervention.com/dose, DOCE. I got to shape the presentation up a little bit, make it a little bit easier to read. But outside of that, it's pretty accurate as of now. Working on 1 or 2 more things. Hopefully Jacob sticks around and help me out with something. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.